All right, hello, fellow coders. In this one, I'm going to start the process of, actually creating some of the real code that's going to go into this application. The first thing I'm going to do is create something called a Restful Endpoint that will allow me to pretend to fetch that data from the endpoint. Okay, so when I created that little rudimentary chart over here, there was the API on the right hand side, and the API would be able to get information from that API. Well, before we can actually go and actually do this part of the diagram and get everything from the API, I'm going to create sort of like a mock endpoint that's we're going to pretend like that's the real place to go to get the information from, just because it's getting the real data live from the real API endpoint will show it's going to be personal data. It's going to be someone's real name, someone's real email address, someone's real phone number. I don't want to be publishing that in a public forum like this in this course. So I'm going to create a fake version of it, and then I'll show you how you can actually do all the steps to integrate with the real one. But at that point, it's not really going to be necessary because I'm going to try to make the fake endpoint behave just like the real endpoint. So the fake, let's call it the fake API, behave just like the real API. So yeah, that's the plan anyway. So I'm going to create a package, and everything is going to be inside of this, COM, Coders Campus, Course Report, API Integration, and we'll call this. I'm trying to think what's a good name for. Normally I'd have something like web. I guess it could be sort of like a web package. It's not. We're not actually building out of. Yeah, we'll call it a web. That's fine. So within web, we can add a Java class, and we'll call this the mock API endpoint. No, mock API controller. We'll call it the mock API controller. Oh, and it's saying, hey, do you want to add this file to Git? I just see that you just added a new file. Do you want me to do that? I can do that for you. Hey, I could be helpful. Sure, you can add it to Git. So basically what that will do is now it'll be added in Git right here, right? It'll be staged, ready to rock, to be committed. So fair enough. That's fair. Oh, right, I'm on the wrong branch though. Hold on. Let me switch back to the main branch. There you go. You saw me make a mistake live. Let's switch back to the main branch, and it's going to say, hey, you have changes. What do you want me to do? You want to leave the changes on the 01 branch? No, I want to bring it to the main branch. I want to bring my changes with me because I'm going to create branch number 2, which is what we're doing right now. So I'm going to switch to the main branch, and then I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to say new branch. I'm going to call O2 and create a new branch called O2, and then that will bring my changes over to O2. Boop. There. So now we're on branch O2, and we've got this mock API controller in version 2 of our, or I guess lesson 2 or whatever of our code. Even though this is kind of lesson 4, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So we have this mock API controller, and the purpose of this is going to be to return sort of fake data. So the first thing I want to do is I want to annotate this as a REST controller. Oh, but I can't because I didn't bring in. I do need Spring Web. Right? Yeah, probably. Shoot. Okay, that's fine. We can go to POM. So this is back when I was talking about that the start.spring.io website, the very first lesson where we were adding dependencies. I said, it's okay if you forget to add one in here. You can always add it later. Well, there you go. I forgot to add one. Now we're adding it later. I was predicting the future. So I just typed in dependency because that's what we have here. We have dependency whatever tags, I guess you can call them in here. What are they called? Nodes? I forget in XML what the nomenclature is for these things. I guess they're nodes. Anyway, a dependency has a group ID, an artifact ID, and maybe even a version as well. But anyway, the group ID it comes from Spring Boot. I remember that much. And then I'm going to guess at the name. I think it's Spring Boot. Oh, good. We have some autocomplete. Starter Web? Yeah, Spring Boot Starter Web. Sweet. And I'll save that. And now what happens when you save it in IntelliJ, you have this little guy over here in the top right. You get this little M with the arrows. This allows you to reload everything that you've added that's potentially new. So I click on this, and that will bring in Spring web into our project. So if you go to, I think, external libraries, it'll be in here somewhere. It just brought it into here. There's a lot of libraries. So somewhere in here, we'll see Spring Boot Starter Web. Here we go. It just brought this guy in. Ta-da! So we just brought a dependency in. Not that you need to know that, but anyway. So now REST controller, if I hover over it, I can import the class. Ta-da! And it comes from Spring Boot Web, right? That's what I just imported. So this REST controller, what this allows me to do is create endpoints that I can talk to. So in my hyper-realistic and beautiful diagram over here, I had the get endpoint, right? That's what we were going to be creating, or that's what we're going to be interacting with in the real world, is a get endpoint. So I'm going to create a get mapping endpoint. And I can call this whatever I like. Let's call this, I don't know, what's a good name for this? Mock API. Yeah, we'll start with mock API. Again, you can call this whatever you like. It's just, it's a path, the path that you're going to type into like a URL in a browser. So we'll call this whatever, mock API. We can always change it later if we don't like it. And this will return something. So this will return, I'm going to use something called response entity. This comes from Spring Framework. And I'm going to put a question mark in here for now, meaning I don't know yet. You can kind of return anything. It's kind of like a wild card. And we'll get more specific in a moment, but we'll just say it returns, something. And we'll have it return... Well, why don't we just do this? Why don't we have it return a string for now? Or sorry, no. Let's have it return a question mark, and we'll call it. We need a name for this method. We'll call this the fetch data. Cool, fine. And then this will return something, right? So this will return. Let's just say it's a string for now. It returns an empty string, and it's not happy with that. Oh, right. It returns a response entity dot, and then you can say body. I think, no, dot okay, and then you put a body in here, which you can just put a string if you like, and have it say okay. Basically, this is just a placeholder, and what I can do here is I can fire up the app if I want to, which is over here. I think this is the Course Report API Integration Application, the file that was created automatically. If you right-click on it, you should be able to run it. And what it should do, if all goes well, is it's going to boot up a web server. I need a console. Here we go. Now it's booting up a console. So it's booting up a web server, but then we have a failure because it says application failed to start. We don't have a data source, right? So what it's saying here is it expected to be provided with the URL of a database, right? So the database, it's expecting a database because of our POM file. In our POM file, we have, where is it? Web, boot, where? Starter test, web, data JPA. Am I losing my mind? What? Oh, MySQL. Yes, I am losing my mind. Here's MySQL. So because we put this in here, it's expecting a database, right? So we could just comment this out for now. I could say, oh shoot, how do I do this? And I usually use, Eclipse. I'm more proficient in Eclipse, but I'm trying to be diverse. I'm trying to branch out and use IntelliJ because a lot of people like IntelliJ, so fair enough. I'm just trying to please the crowd. Control / was the shortcut key to comment everything out. So I highlighted all these lines. You hit Control / and you can toggle commenting stuff out. So if I comment this stuff out and reload the Maven, I just clicked on this guy to reload it. And then I restart my server. Basically, I've taken the MySQL database out of the equation. Well, I was expecting it to not fail on start. How come that still failed? Welcome to live demos, everyone. Let me try this play button. Is it just because of the play button that I hit? No. It wants a data source. Even though I've commented this out and I clicked my Maven button, maybe it's... maybe it didn't do a clean, Maven clean or something. Generate sources, reload, execute Maven goal. Can I say, well, shoot. I might just have to include a database, which is fine. It's not. I hadn't planned on doing it in this one. Yeah, okay. We'll just include a database. How much time do we have? We're 10 minutes in. So maybe what we'll do is, yeah, let me pause the video. I'll grab some. There's just some simple properties we need to paste into our application properties file, but I don't want you guys to watch me dig through and find it. So let me just pause it. I'll grab those properties and then come back. All right, so it actually wasn't hard at all. That was like 3 seconds. I typed in Spring Boot application properties, MySQL connection string, and the first hit was this article. I clicked on it, I scrolled down a bit, and then voila, there's what you need for your application properties file. So I'm just going to paste that in here. I open up the application properties file, which is under the resources folder. Paste that bad boy in, and this allows us to set things up. So the connection to the MySQL host is just localhost. Oh, I see. They've used this little syntax to, I guess, assign a default of localhost. Otherwise, if you include an environment variable here, it'll include that there. That's pretty cool. If you yeah, neat. I like that. And then this is the name of the database. So I haven't created a database yet. So let's call this the course report API DB, right? Cool. Username, password. I forget. Did I have example username and then password? 1, 2. No, you know what? I think it's root. For me, I created. So this is. It's whatever the password is for your MySQL server that you've installed on your own machine. If you have not installed MySQL server yet, you can go and download it from if you type in MySQL download, MySQL server community. You want the community version. So download MySQL community server, right? You can go and download it here, and whatever version you like. I'm on Windows, so I do the installer file. Is what I usually do. Anyway, so yeah, you want the community downloads because those ones are free. So cool. I have that, and that also includes MySQL Workbench. So MySQL Workbench is the UI that you use to connect to your local database, right? So that's where my username is root and my password is root because that's what I've set up, and that allows me to connect to my local database. I know the text is small here, but let me just quickly create the database. I'll create a database called Course Report API. Boom. And then I'm going to run this. Boom. That's going to create the database, and then there you go. So now you need to create the database for the app to be able to boot up properly. Cool. Also, I don't want this to be commented out, and this is the wrong syntax. It should say equals. There. Very good, very good. So we have that file now. So now it's pointing to a database that exists. So if I go to my, POM file, I can bring this code back in because we do want to connect to MySQL now because we've told it how to connect to the database, and I'll start it up. And fingers crossed, this should boot up properly. There you go. So it got past that error. It booted up. It started in 3 seconds. So now what I can do is I can go and visit that endpoint. So in the mock API controller, we set up the endpoint of mock API. So I can go to, it's running on localhost 8080. That's the default. Does it say so? Yeah, so Tomcat started on port 8080. So Tomcat is the name of the web server. That's the thing that's running your Java code ready to use on the internet. And it's running on port 8080. So you type in localhost 8080. And then / mock API. And there you go. It says OK. So that means we have successfully talked to this get mapping endpoint. So once you can get that up and running, you're doing good. Now the next step is to actually have this endpoint, this mock API endpoint, return more than just OK. We want it to return data in the same structure, in the same format that we would get from our real endpoint over here, right? We want it to actually get the right data format back. The data itself can be fake data, but the format is what we care about, meaning the structure of the data. We want to match what it looks like from that API. So we'll do that in the next one.